Welcome to Andy's Garage. I'm Andy Phillips. Today we're back in the garage after a long break, getting ready to resume work on the Countach project. So let's go ahead and get started. Where we had left off last time, we were working on the pop-up headlight assemblies. And then right at that point was when we went through the whole move where we were getting this new place built. So this is the first time that we're working on the Countach project here in the new garage, so that's going to be exciting. But what I want to do today, because during that move, lost a lot of time, unfortunately. At this point, I was hoping to have the car already painted and working on the suspension, so all that was put on hold. We're not going to be getting into the pop-up headlights right now because I don't have a lot of time this time in the garage, so we're just going to do something quick. I'm going to be working here on these windows here, and I'll get a close-up so I can show you what I'm talking about. Right here in this opening, you can see obviously there's none of the window framing. On the typical Countach, you have 3 window panes. You have the front piece here, and then you have a split coming right down here. You have the lower part of the window that only goes down about 3 or 4 inches max, and then the other windows don't open. Here's an image of what I'm talking about. So what I'm going to be doing today is we're going to go ahead and be putting in the window framing. We're going to go ahead and chemically weld that in place, so that way when I put the windows in, we have the framing in place. Now, on my particular Countach Replica, I'm not going to upgrade it to have the lower window go down because, to be honest, I put a lot more time and money into this restoration than I originally had planned on, because as I'm going into this vehicle, I'm realizing things that the original manufacturer did to either customize or just did not pay attention to detail, that I'm trying to modify it back to the original Countach look. Unfortunately, not everything I'm able to do that with because some of the overall structure was just slightly off. And once the car is done, we'll go over all that. But I was contemplating putting the window mechanism inside the door and getting it all lined up with the track to do all that, to have the window go down. But at the end of the day, for just 3 to 4 inches, it's just not worth it. So we're just going to go ahead and have all the windows just permanently in place, but we do have to put the framing in, which is what we're going to do today. Doors are a little bit out of line because I just put them on temporarily. We actually had a birthday party in here for my son, and I just wanted to get the car somewhat put together because we had taken all this apart, anticipating that it was going to be painted by now. So since that got delayed, the doors were put on just so the car looked halfway decent because his friends and stuff wanted to play around with it, which was pretty cool. However, they're not properly aligned. As you can see, it's not going all the way down, so just ignore that for this video. Once the car is repainted all, then the scissor doors have to be aligned properly and put in place so they close properly. So for today, what I'm going to be using is just some 1/8 inch thick steel flat bar. And we're going to go ahead and just put these here where they need to go. Cut the one coming down on that angle, cut this one over. I have actual templates of the real Lamborghini Countach windows that we're going to be using so we get the right angles and the sizing correct. And then as mentioned, we're going to go ahead and chemically weld that since the doors are fiberglass and this is obviously steel. We're going to be using some JB Weld compound for fiberglass and steel bodywork. It's very strong stuff. And then we'll go ahead and set that in place. And then as mentioned already, once we get the actual windows done, then they will then lay into these supports, and then there will be another support that's going to go on the outside with the molding once that's all done, and we'll cross that bridge after the doors are painted and we're finishing everything up. So I'm going to go ahead and get these. We're going to put them in place, measure the right angles, get everything cut, line it up with the templates. We'll go ahead and cut that off, start laying it in place, and then that'll wrap up this brief video. Okay, so what I have here, this is a template that I made off of the actual Lamborghini glass panels. So you've got your front piece of glass here. It's usually cut on an angle here because you have the molding that then takes it all the way, the black molding, just as you have here on this corner. Then you have your upper and lower glass panels. So if we lay this in here, that'll kind of show us where we need to be. That drops right in here. Now you'll see this, the original Lamborghini glass has more of a curve down than I do, and that's because the pillar on the original windshield comes more on this angle because the window gets wider at the bottom than mine does. I'm going to try to compensate for that with the molding to shape that better, but unfortunately this is off. So my glass is going to be a little more that way. So this is what we're looking for the window framing. We have this piece here and then this piece here. So I'm going to go ahead and mark these on the vehicle. Then we're going to go ahead and I'm going to cut those pieces. We'll start getting them in place so we can go ahead and weld them in place with the chemical weld. So I'm going to go ahead and get them cut and we'll be right back. I went ahead and cut the pieces. We're going to go ahead and lay them in place. I went ahead and made some markings in there so we know exactly the angles and the placement based off of that template we had. That one goes right about here. Nice angle to it. Then this one here will be centered right up in here, connecting approximately right there. That's how it's going to look. Looks really good. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to start applying the JB Weld, the welding compound, so we can chemically weld this in place. Now this one here will be straight because that's the way that it goes. However, with this support here, as you can see right here, it's perfectly straight. I need to bend it slight radius because the glass is not perfectly flat. The glass kind of comes out a little bit rounded. Here's an image of a real Countach so you can see what I'm talking about. So that's what we're going to do with this one. I'm going to bend it just a little bit so that way we have that bend curving slightly this way. So when the glass goes in here, it's going to have that little bit of roundness to it. Then we'll have the straight piece here, and then those will go in place there. And then as mentioned before, then we'll put the molding on the outside of where this framing is, and that'll outline it all around here. We'll have the black piece that falls in this corner, and then the glass will come up and taper just like we saw in the template, and then we'll have the black piece that lays right in here to round that edge into the windshield, and then that'll give a nice clean look. But for now, we're just going to put these pieces in, bend it how it needs to be, go ahead and let the compound dry to weld these in place. Then we'll do the other side. Then we'll be back to take a look, see how everything turned out. That'll wrap it up for this episode, because then once we paint it, this framing will get painted with it from the inside, and then we can lay the windows in place when everything is done. So I'm going to go ahead and start prepping everything so we can get these all welded in place, and then we'll be back to see how it looks. Everything has been put in place. You can see the welding compound is hardening very nicely, holding everything in line. Coming along here, it's looking very good, and you can see right there where it's curing as well. So even though it's already hardened enough where it's holding it in place, we're going to go ahead and let it sit overnight to properly cure, and then we'll be back tomorrow to take a look at everything and see how all turned out on both sides and wrap up this video. Welcome to day 2. Everything has dried. We're looking at it here. It actually turned out excellent. Looks perfect here. We'll get a shot of it from the front where you can see the little bit of the radius that I added, and then we'll compare it with the photo of an original LP400S so you can see what I'm talking about. But this looks really good. This is nice and dry. Really nice. Let's head over on the other side. I had that one drying as well. We'll take the seat clamps off and see how that one turned out. All right, let's see here. Nice and dry. Take these off. Might be a little stuck right here. I don't want to mess anything up. And I'm not too worried about how perfect that is, because what I'm going to do before we put the windows in, I'm going to smooth that out, because right now you've got two layers, so you've got a little bit of a step there. That'll be nice and smoothed out, so I'm not too worried about that. Let's see here. Looks good. Looks very good also. We've got it all centered and measured properly. And basically what's going to happen, and you can see here where that's off. The door was here, which was too far back on this particular replica here. The real Countach should be here. So what I'm going to do is after we put the molding in, I'm going to take that molding and ride it out further to this point and then curve down. So this will all be concealed. once that's done, so I'm not worried about that. So once it's all said and done, the proportions and the placement of the windows will be exact. And then down here, you'll have the molding riding here, going out to that point, and then that black piece here, black piece here. It'll look really nice, and then we'll have the black weather stripping here on the outside of the window as it needs to be. So this is actually looking really good. Really good. Let's look at it from the front, and I'll show you what I was talking about with the radius windows. And hopefully you can see it. But right there, you'll see it's got a little bit of a bump out right there. The radius kind of rolls out just a little bit, so it's not flush and flat. And I'll show you on the other side, you can see that as well. And the thing is once the windows are put in, it'll accentuate it even more because you'll have the black molding on the outside also accentuating that curve. But right here too, you can see right there how it kind of bumps out just a little bit. It's not just flat. And that's how it's supposed to be. Here's a photo of a real Countach from the front where you can see what I'm talking about, because you can always see that little bit of a bump out of the side window. Take a look. And that's something that a lot of times when a replica is built, like a turnkey replica is built by a company, or if somebody buys a kit and builds a kit car, they tend to miss that detail right there, is that they go ahead and they do the window flat, where it's supposed to have that little bit of a radius right there, which also adds to the shape as well. So that's one of the little things that I like to look for just to make it look more original. So turned out really nice. We're going to go ahead now and I'm going to get some close-ups of it, and then we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Here we are sitting in the vehicle, and you can see right there how nice that looks for the window opening. So once the glass panels are in right here, and you can see right here, you'll have the piece here, one here in the front. You can see a little bit of the radius there. It looks really good. Another thing, by adding that radius, is when you see it from the side, this bar does not go completely just straight. Because of it being radius, it kind of adds a little bit of a curvature to it like that, which the real one has that small level of detail as well. So that's the other plus to doing this properly, is that your side and your front view of the windows are going to be more accurate. So that's pretty much it. All right, well, that pretty much wraps up this episode. Working on the Countach here. Just a quick thing. Wanted to do some modifications here to the door, getting it ready for the windows. Hopefully the next time in the garage, we're going to start working, and I'll show you right here. Right here on these fenders. We have these pieces here that I put on here, and here just kind of templates marking it. I've got the polycarbonate sheets ready to go. We just need to cut them on both sides, chemically weld those on, body fill them, smooth them all, get them all nice and pretty. That'll wrap that up. Then we can resume back on the pop-up headlights and then a couple minor things, and we can then get back on track with the painting, detailing, and then suspension and be done with it. So coming along slowly, a little bit of a delay with the move, but we're back on schedule. I hope this video was enjoyable for you. Please send me any questions, any comments you may have. I appreciate all the support, so please like the video, subscribe to the channel, as I'm always posting new content, and I'll see you next time.